You're listening to Supervision with a Vision, where we discuss all things supervision. I'm your host, Sarah, professional counselor, marriage and family therapist, play therapist, eating disorder specialist, and cookie lover, with my co-host, Heather, marriage and family therapist, certified Together in Texas counselor, a Texas transplant from California, and outdoor adventurer. Hi, welcome to Supervision with a Vision. Today, Heather and I are talking about being focused during supervision. This week, we read How to Be Less Distracted, published in Psychology Today, 2022. And the first point in the article is that distraction is driven by discomfort. That feels like a big statement. Do you think your distraction, when you feel distracted, it's driven by something that you're uncomfortable with?
I think probably, now that I evaluate that statement a little bit, but I originally thought, well, I could argue that the other way. I'm distracted because I have too many things going on or too much stuff, but I guess that could be discomfort, right?
Yeah.
So I think it could be. I think if I'm distracted, actually, I had supervision this morning and I was definitely distracted by what my associate was sharing because she works at an outside agency. And I was not necessarily in agreement with how they were handling some behavior management things. And so I was definitely distracted by what she was saying. I kept asking very clarifying questions and I think our topic got a little off course because I was so caught up in the details she was sharing.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to imagine. I think maybe the first example of this that came to mind was a physical discomfort. If I am thirsty.
Right. Hot, cold, whatever.
I have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Then I'm definitely distracted.
That's a great actual example of like so many times, how many times we open the door and see like back-to-back clients and you're like, oh yes, I actually should probably take a break.
But I think you're right. Then being distracted maybe about what's being said in supervision or some other thought, I could be distracted by that. And that could be typically a discomfort. Do you think it ever happens where you're distracted because you're thinking about something that's just really happy and the opposite of uncomfortable?
The only time I can think of that ever maybe happening to me is when I'm about to leave on vacation. But I think I get distracted because this is the last thing I have to do before I'm out of here. Or this is the last, which is happy in itself, but I think...
Kind of a discomfort.
Right, a discomfort that I'm still in it.
I think if I thought about a small picture discomfort, that I can be distracted in supervision if, like you were describing, your supervisee is describing something that you're uncomfortable with. And so then you are thinking about supervision and you are thinking about the supervisee and their situation. But I can see myself getting distracted enough that I'm missing their meaning.
Right.
Or their emotion related to it because I'm in my head thinking, I can't believe they let them do that.
Right.
Or what? Or, just whatever side thought I've gotten myself distracted with. So I think that could be a discomfort.
Right.
Maybe not the way we usually think of using that word.
Right. And I think you could also be distracted or actually from the supervisee's side, maybe they're distracted by what they need to share, or maybe they're second guessing themselves. And so they're sharing very maybe flatly or not connecting any emotion to it because they're uncomfortable with what they're sharing. And that could be something that they're experiencing on that side.
Yeah. I think I see that happening, or I can imagine that happening. Maybe I want to go over, I typically start supervision and say, okay, let's make room for logistic things if we have to talk about scheduling or payment or something like that. But if they're thinking, I've got to talk about this client, it was really important this week, that they might miss
something simple like, oh yeah, next week I need to meet on Wednesday instead of Thursday. Something,
Yeah. Okay. So our discomfort, their discomfort can equal distractions
all across.
Coming from both ways. Yeah. Okay. One of the solutions to being distracted in supervision or otherwise is to turn things into a game.
Okay.
What do you think that means?
Well, I think if you make it fun, you're going to be more engaged, right? But I think fun could look like lots of different things.
True.
I think sometimes for myself, if I'm busy writing notes or doing something that, is maybe more tedious that I don't enjoy as much, I kind of always give myself the carrot at the end.
Oh, I do that.
And after I do this, then I can, whatever.
Maybe I'm telling myself I'm going to sit down and write today's worth of notes.
Right.
And I think, oh, I don't want to write all those notes. And so, but then I'll tell myself, okay, but when I'm done with these notes, then I'm going to take the dog for a walk.
Right.
Or something that
gets you
more appealing or interesting.
I think that's how I play a game.
I'll even tell myself, okay, I wonder if I get really focused, if I can write this note in the next 5 minutes. And
right. Kind of play a little game. Yeah. I like that.
I think I do that with other things also and I think that my parents do this and that's where it came from. Maybe I'm going to clean the office. I definitely turn on music.
Absolutely. Make it a little more enticing. We do that at home as well. In fact, I even do that when I am in my office here at a building, not at home. But when I'm in my office, if no one else is here, I always turn on music because I'm actually more productive. I just found that out about myself that the background noise is helpful. So
I think I've talked about this before. One game that I created, I think I do create kind of like games for myself. I decided I was going to try and use all of the spices.
Oh, yes, I remember.
And I made that a game, and it was fun to me because I was using up different spices that maybe I don't know how to use, or don't know what to do with, but also it made making dinner a lot more fun.
Right. You're like, what are we using tonight? What's something different? Yeah.
I had to look up new recipes, try new things. So that made a fun game out of something that could have gotten pretty routine. What about with supervision specifically? What do you do? How could you create a game or make a game of something in supervision so it feels more interesting, you're more engaged, maybe the supervisee's more engaged?
There's a technique that I've done in group supervision before, but you definitely need more than two of you having the conversation. But when you do like a case presentation, to like pause midway, like through and throw like different variables in. So instead of like, the case presentation, you talk about that case or whatever, and then go back and revisit it. And maybe instead of the person being 20 years old, you're like, okay, but now it's a 12-year-old. Same symptoms, same whatever.
That is fun and interesting. I
kind of get it
so let's
in a different plane.
If we're going to try an example right now, you're saying a client comes in and tells you that they're having a hard time at work and it's affecting their important relationship at home. And it's a man and they're in their 30s. And then you switch it up a little bit and you say it's a woman and she's in her 50s.
Right.
And she is in a relationship with a woman.
And so you're getting
change some of the dynamics.
Right. And you're getting your supervisees to not only see it through a different lens a little bit, like what other factors are you considering? But also you change up the monotony of like being so focused on like, here we are with my 5 clients that I'm going to tell you about this week. You change up. But if it was different, what would you do differently?
Yeah. I think that would even highlight, to me, it could highlight some of the decision making that the supervisee had because of the specific characteristics of their client. So if we switched it, like I said, to a woman who's in her 50s, who's in a relationship with a woman, then you go, oh, some of my response was specific to the fact that our pretend client was male 30.
Right.
That you would note, it would highlight or help you notice. That's interesting. I like that. I'm going to try that. I do something similar with theory.
Okay.
That maybe I know my supervisee thinks that they are person-centered or something like that. And they're telling me about a client and telling me their conceptualization and what they're going to do with the client. And then I would ask them to try on a different theory.
Oh, yeah. Like what would it look like through a different perspective? Okay.
So if we were talking about the same client, but we're talking about it from an Adlerian perspective, what's different? What's the same?
Right.
And partly, like I'm saying, with even the characteristics of a client, if we're changing that it helps you highlight what's similar and what's not similar.
Right.
So you would maybe notice, oh, I'm still really listening to this person and noticing how they interact with their world. But from an Adlerian perspective, I'm also thinking about the goals that they have, the goals that the client has, personal goals.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to give that a shot. I think another thing that I do that feels kind of like, I don't know if it's a game, but it kind of fun or brings some playfulness to supervision. when I do group supervision, I ask everyone to bring a resource to share.
Yes. That is a fun way to kind of like open up supervision, get talking about some other things that aren't just client-based.
And I think that they enjoy, they think about it outside of supervision. What can I bring? And they're thinking about their peers in supervision. Like, oh, I think that my peer in supervision might appreciate this training I heard about, or this book I'm reading. Okay, Heather, our last point in this article that they made is that everything can be interesting, unique, or novel. Can everything be?
I was going to say, I think this is a bold statement. I think that we can attempt to make some things fun, and a lot of it's about attitude, right? So if you have the right perspective or the right attitude, it could be exciting or fun. But catch me at an off day or a bad day, and I'm going to tell you to take that and run.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I had to make some phone calls to insurance companies this week.
Yeah, no thanks.
Man, that's my least favorite thing to do as a counselor is call insurance companies and deal with claim issues. And I don't know how I would make that fun.
Okay, I can tell you how to make that fun.
Okay.
You need to have an accent. You need to be in character mode.
Oh.
And then it's entertaining and fun for yourself. But you got to make sure you hold that accent the whole way through.
Or not. What if I had an accent and then I switched to a different accent?
There you go. I just made calling the insurance fun.
Yeah. I do usually try to be really personable with the other person.
Right.
I think because I'm thinking their job is horrible. This is what they do for a living every day.
All the time.
They talk to people about insurance claims every day, and that makes me sad for them. So I always try to be really personable or relatable to them, but even that's hard.
Right. I do think it goes back to having like a good attitude. And there are going to be days that's easier, and there's going to be days that's harder. But
or I don't know, what if I try and do this and then I get mixed up. But I'll try and maybe like read something or I'm doing something while I'm on hold.
Oh, yeah.
And then I get mixed up and then they pick back up and go, okay, what was that claim number? And I'm like, oh.
Whoa, claim number. Hang on. Let me,
Yeah, and I have to go and find it. And, oh, I'm so sorry. It was right here. So it doesn't always work for me in that situation. But yeah, that one's a stretch for me to imagine that calling insurance companies about problem claims could be novel or interesting or engaging.
Right.
Maybe if I went for a walk, but then I wouldn't I don't know.
Then you wouldn't have what you need in front of you.
Right. I'll have to work on this, how I can make that one interesting. So today, Heather and I talked about being focused in supervision, that distraction is driven by discomfort. If you turn things into a game, then you can be less distracted. And that if you try hard enough, and that's going to be our challenge for the week, to try hard, we can make everything interesting. Heather and I would love to hear some of your remedies for feeling distracted in supervision or some of the other tasks that you have in the week. And we would also love to hear your ideas for topics. Thanks again for listening to Supervision with a Vision. You've been listening to Supervision with a Vision. Head on over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Therapy Academy to join the conversation and get show notes. We'll be back next week with more Supervision with a Vision.